Hello, today I am going to show you how to create amazing realistic interiors in Blender from start to finish, from wall modeling to post-processing. This course is suitable for those who are already familiar with the basics of Blender and want to reach a new level of interior visualization. I am sure that even experienced users will find something useful. We are going to work on a 2-bedroom apartment. This is a real project that I am doing for a demanding client. In this course, I will show my approach to work as a professional designer, which I use in all of my projects. It is a universal approach, and these techniques will be helpful in any of your projects. Don't worry, there won't be anything complicated here. I will combine a few simple techniques to save a lot of time and energy. Before you get started, set yourself up to perform each step as best as possible. There is no need to rush, and this way you will achieve the best results. I start a project by setting the measurement units. In this case, it would be meters, so it will be easier to perceive the size of the room. Add a cube. The standard size is 2 meters. Bring it up to 1 meter and then switch to edit mode. Move its faces to get the room dimensions you want. Or you can directly set the size of the cube. The third method is to make walls by extruding edges via extrude. I will show all of them later. Enable snap to point. Cut and move the edge to a corner. After that, move it to the right distance. Make extrude, and that's how I get new walls. Then delete the top and bottom polygons. There is no need for them now. And go this way through all of the measurements. When measuring, all the walls, windows and doors are referenced to each other. Once again, cut, snap it to the previous one, and from it move the necessary distance. So you can do vertical and horizontal cuts. Now do the door openings. To do this, add a horizontal cut, pin it and offset 20 cm. Next, add another one for the doors and set it at a height of 2 meters. Note that you can open the side menu with the N key. Remove the polygons in place of windows and doors to leave openings empty. To make the walls of the bathroom, select the edges in the doorway and extrude them in the desired direction to the necessary distance. Then select the upper edges holding Alt and extrude them to the ceiling level. The outer walls do not play any role, so you cannot do them. The floor is a regular plane which is made slightly larger than the apartment itself. To fill the doors and windows, I highly recommend turning on the Archipack add-on. It's already built into Blender. Select a polygon, place the 3D cursor there, then press Add menu, choose a regular window. On the right side in the Archipack menu, set the right dimensions. The number of rows and panels is 2. Then duplicate it. Adjust to the size of the window over and over again until all the windows are filled. They can be adjusted after they were created. Do the same for the balcony. Set the right height, width, number of panels. After that, remember to turn off the glass in all of the windows because it will only interfere. It does not affect the image in the daytime, it just creates noise. Next, set the window sill so the windows fit well in their openings. Raise the handle to the right height, as it does in the real apartment. Once again, put the 3D cursor and create a window, which this time will serve as a door. In this case, the differences are small. Adjust the size, place the handle in the right place, make a small casing. Similarly, create the door, only this time choose the door from the menu. In this project, I have enough of the possibilities with the standard set with minor changes. But if you want, you can make something completely your own based on it. Now it's time to create new partition walls. To do this, place the cube in the place where the existing wall ends and begin to fit its sides. Using the same technique, with the help of cuts and snaping, build the desired layout, which I have designed in advance and approved with the client. To make the thickness of the wall, use bevel. Then connect the two polygons to create the wall. Add the cuts for the doorways and then again use bevel. Remove the polygons, connect the edges. Using the same technique, continue to make walls. Cut at a height of 2 meters, that would be the door openings. To locate the door, put the 3D cursor. Then add the door. Remove window sills, make the frame thinner. Adjust the closed door to fit the size of the opening. The rest of the doors are standard, they just have size adjustments. And since they put in place of the 3D cursor, they are already centered. All I just have is to set the dimensions. Do the same thing with the bedroom closet. The doors have a narrow frame from floor to ceiling. Duplicate it to the other room as well. Also, I could try to make a partition between the hallway and the living area. The next step is to create a blockout. This is a technique where you can use cubes to assume basic dimensions of the furniture to see if it will fit in its places. Create a few cubes, set the right size in the panel on the right and start placing them. The first thing to do is build the kitchen, which is a big volume, and see how many models you can fit here. To do this, use the array modifier, which allows to quickly make many samples of modules. In this case, 4 modules will fit well. The next step is to place the rest of the furniture. Create cubes that denote a sofa, 2 armchairs, a coffee table, and a credenza along the wall. The dining area places a table and 4 chairs. In this kind of work, accuracy is not important, as much as simple understanding that whether the furniture can fit here or not. You should always be ready to make changes to achieve the best results. Add a bed and bedside tables. Try to figure out how best to arrange the balcony and move on to the bathroom. In this house, the bathroom and the toilet room are divided into 2 separate rooms. I'm trying to find the best option, but I will end up with a better idea later. You don't have to pay much attention to this step because things can change. Here, a drawer fits perfectly in the corner. The sink is placed in front of the door. At the entrance, a small shelf can be made where you could keys and necessary little things. In the end, add a rug that would unify the living area. The last step is to select all the blocks and move them to the new collection to make it easier to work with later. Before we go any further, let's check if the polygons on the walls are oriented correctly. Turn on face orientation. Select everything that is colored red. Go into the mesh menu, normals, flip. Everything turns blue. Now they're all turned inside the room. Next, create the heating radiators on the floor. This is a regular cube. Scale it to the right size. Apply all transformations so inset is correct with equal sides. Make a small thickness of the frame. Then extrude the middle. Next, create a small cube which will become a grill. Move its edges and add an array modifier. As a result, there are a lot of ribs. To make the corners a little smoother, add the bevel modifier and do the same with the frame. Apply both modifiers and combine ribs and the frame into one object. Next, it is needed to make a few cuts on the floor and apply the bevel to get polygons that could be extruded into the inside. Repeat the same for the other radiators. Then it should be copied to all the rooms. Prepare a place for it. Then copy the radiator and adjust the size of the frame. Copy the ribs and remove the unnecessary ones. You can select even one polygon on each rib, then press Ctrl L and it will select all the polygons on that element. With the same technique, copy radiators to other rooms, adjust their size and prepare voids on the floor for them. Next, start to model the kitchen. Change the units to millimeters, delete the existing blocks and create a new one in the place with Add Cube. Divide it into several parts of each of 600 mm and raise the base by 100 mm to make it easy to approach the cabinets. Deepen all 18 mm, that is the thickness of the door. Cut 10 mm deeper and extrude the base to reach the floor. Make two cuts. The first at the height of the countertop, the second at 2 meters. Do the same with the other cabinets. Replace the blocks with a new form. Raise the base by 100 mm. Deepen to the thickness of the door. Make the cut and extrude the base to the floor. Separate the countertop with a cut and extrude it on the sides, so it ends on the floor. Select the polygons of the countertop and sides and extrude them by 18 mm. Make cuts for the doors. Select the polygons and use inset at 2 mm individually for each polygon. Select the top edges that came out and lower them by about 30 mm. That would be the handles. Make the extrude at 18 mm. Import the kitchen appliances. Put the oven in its place. And based on that, cut. Then do the same thing with the other doors. Select the top internal edges and lower them so that they were easy to grab. Apply bevel modifier at 2 mm. Turn off clamp overlap and make extrude in place of the oven. Continue arranging the rest of the appliances, the coffee machine and the microwave oven. Then move on to making the doors of the cabinets. Everything is the same here. Do a 2 mm inset with individual parameter turned on, so each polygon insets separately. To make the doors of the fridge, select a few polygons together and inset them, but individual parameter is turned off. Put the edges at the right height. Select all the doors and make an extrude of 18 mm. Select the faces, make a profile using them. Apply a bevel of 2 mm and don't forget to turn off the clamp overlap. Add a small grill underneath the fridge that will be ventilation. This kind of detail is very important. Divide it into several parts, bevel and extrude it out. To create the handles, put the 3D cursor in the middle. Create a cylinder and reduce it to the size of the handle. Set the height, add a small cube. Stretch its sides and use snaps to align it to the top and bottom of the handle. Combine them with Ctrl J and duplicate. Select the polygons of the cabinet in the place of the appliances and make extrude. Import the hood and put it in place. Make extrude around it to align the bottom of the cabinet with the hood. Just like with the countertop, make an extrude outline around it. Lower the top of the cabinet so it would not touch the ceiling. Add cuts to mark the doors. Make a 2 mm inset, extrude 18 mm. Make handles and again do an 18 mm extrude, but for the outline. Apply a bevel of 2 mm to the upper cabinet. Turn off the clamp overlap and align the top of the cabinet to the profile at 2 meters high. Import the cooktop and sink. Put them in their places. Select the right polygon, apply inset, adjust its dimensions to the sink. Make extrude. It remains only to make the back panel to protect the wall from the dirt. The kitchen is ready. It's time to place the furniture in the living area. I took the furniture from the manufacturer's website and searched for it on 3D Sky. You can also look on TurboSquid or collections like Evermotion. You should always check the quality of the model. In this case, I need to apply subdivision surface to smooth it out. You can combine objects into one collection for convenience. Import the table and start arranging the furniture. In this case, a round table is more suitable than a square one. It leaves more space around it. Remove or hide all the blocks in the living room. Import and place the chair in the right place. Make a copy of it and put it next to it. Import a sofa that would be about the same size as the block in its place. Import a credenza. In this case, it is much larger than the entire apartment. This means that there is something wrong with the scale. Try reducing it by exactly 10 or 100 times. In most cases, the item will be exactly the right size. These things are easily made individually, so I can let them change as I need them for the project. Reduce its size, remove the handles because they should be replaced with the same ones in the kitchen. Select the top points and lower them down to get the profile of the handles. Import and place indoor plant. This is a fairly large accessory, so you can put it in at this stage, unlike the smaller accessories, which should be put in at later stage. Import suspended light fixtures. Again, they are larger than necessary. Partially select the ones you want to remove. Press Ctrl L and remove the rest. Go to the top view and arrange them. Copy them several times and rotate them. Make them different lengths until they look good together and harmonize with the table. With the help of Add Cylinder, create a round mirror. The curtains in this case are not modeled in any way, just imported. In this case I have two sets, which is enough for this small project. The quality of the pre-made curtains is usually higher than if you make them yourself. Near the entrance, widen the shelf a bit and add a mirror. Make the door casing thinner. It will fit the project better. It's time to make the carpet. Cut it into many pieces, apply all the transformations and go into sculpting mode. Take the fabric brush and start adding creases to the carpet very lightly to make it look natural. When the creases are added, take the smoothing brush and soften the creases. Pull the large creases back to make the edges of the carpet relatively straight. In the end, apply the subdivision surface modifier. Now let's move on to creating the second bedroom. First, import the bed. Make it into a single bed. Remove unnecessary pillows and anything else you don't need. In this project, the bed will be made individually, so you can make it any shape you want. Remove or hide the blocks, import a credenza, desk and office chair. Put them into their places. Fit the new furniture to the right dimensions. Combine the desk into a single object so it can be easier to edit and slightly widen it. Copy the existing curtains into this room. Squeeze them to fit, but some can stay behind the walls, it won't be noticeable. The existing mattress doesn't look good enough and has poor geometry. It's best to redo it. Put the cursor at the desired place and add the cube. Stretch it to the right size, apply all the transformations and apply the bevel modifier. Do the same with the bottom of the bed. Remove the base, copy the mattress, move it down and stretch it to the desired size. Because the bevel was applied as a modifier, it will stay the right size and you don't need to apply it again. Cut the mattress into a large number of polygons. Take a cloth brush and carefully add creases to create a natural variety. Then take the smoothing brush and go over the entire surface. To create the headboard, start by adding a cube in place of the 3D cursor. Divide it into several parts, which are divided into several more segments. At the intersections in the center you got points. Add cuts around the ends so that the smoothing would not be so strong and the corners would be sharper. Add a bevel to the inner seams. Pick the edge that was formed in the middle and move slightly inward. This will make the seams more pronounced. Add legs with the Add Cube tool. We can say that the bed is ready. Import the bedside table. In the main bedroom, remove or hide the blocks. Import the bed. In this project, the bed will be custom-made, so it's something I will make myself. When choosing a model, avoid the common mistake. The bed should be neatly made. The blanket should not be lying around in random ways. Remove unnecessary pillows and check that they are not bunched up. Fill the room with curtains that are already in the project. Move on to editing the bed. Remove unnecessary blankets, stretch them to the right size. Do the same with the pillows. For the headboard, place the cursor and add a cube in its place. Stretch it to the desired size and insert on the front face several times. Select the corners and add a bevel on them to make it a bit stiffer when you apply smoothing. Do the same thing closer to the edges. Make cuts, apply a bevel. You get a smooth shape that looks soft. Add curtains again from the existing set. Combine them, make them different width and thicknesses. Now they look quite varied and they still of great quality. Separate them from the wall so they don't overlap with it. Copy the light fixtures from the dining area and place them above each of the bedside tables. Adjust the height by moving vertices. On the balcony, remove the blocks and add a bar stool model in their places. Spread them about 70 cm between their centers. To create a counter, take an existing table, copy it, and resize it by moving the vertices. Let's move on to creating the bathroom. Put a partition that will separate the shower room. Divide it into two parts and remove the middle. This will be the opening for the glass door. Import the sink. In this case, nothing other than it is needed in this model. Place it in the desired location. Move the partition so that it matches the size of the sink. Create cabinets under the bottom of the sink. Leave enough space at the bottom to stand comfortably near it and make sure it's well ventilated. Divide the volume into several parts according to the number of shelves. Extrude what you got and deepen the edges, so that the profile of the handles is the same as in the kitchen. Apply bevel modifier with clamp overlap turned off. Add a mirror, and don't forget to increase the mirror's faces to make it more round. Raise it to the desired height. To create a cabinet, add a cube with the height to the ceiling. Raise the base by 100 mm and deepen the front by 18 mm. Create individual walls by making cuts. Move each one of the cuts to the edges and bring back 18 mm to the center. Add a small groove so that the cabinet can be comfortably approached. Cut the cabinet at the level of the doors and the necessary shelves. Apply all transformations and make 2 mm inset, and like the rest of the project, make the doors. Leave a small gap and extrude 18 mm. It only remains to apply the bevel modifier. Next, let's move on to creating the shower room. Raise them to the level of the threshold, so that the water doesn't spill onto the floor. In the shower area, create a cube. The drain pipe will be hidden there. A height of 100 mm will be enough. In the center, make a drainage hole. Further, while walking, I get an idea of how the cabinet handle can be made better. Move it on the same level as the sink. Import the modular set to create glass doors and by moving the vertices, stretch it to the right size. The height of the door should be at the level of 2 meters. Raise the handle to the right height. In this case, there is a keyhole on the door. It is not needed. Remove unnecessary polygons and close the gap. Copy the handle to the other side, so the door can be opened from the back side. When the main volumes are ready, you can try to import some important accessories. Take the hook and place it on the wall. Apply the array modifier, which allows you to place copies of the object at an equal distance. If the distance doesn't match the scale of the scene, apply all transformations. Import the ropes. They are quite large and their placement should be taken into account at an early stage. Add a shower and a towel to the scene and put them in their places. Carefully check that nothing gets in each other's way. Finish off drainage hole. Create a small grid. Also, it is unlikely to be visible in the rendering, so don't pay much attention to such things. Import the light fixture. Adjust its height so it would be leveled with the middle of the mirror. Duplicate it to the other side. Take the controls from the sink facade and duplicate them for the shower. Import the toilet and put it in the right place. Copy the existing bathroom cabinet and stretch it to fit the size of the niche in the wall. Hide or delete the existing unit and add a shelf for the sink. Import the sink itself. The sink will stand on the top of the shelf, so make it lower than normal. Divide it into two parts by the number of doors. Separate the countertop and deepen the doors 18 mm inward. Apply an inset of 2 mm to each shelf and extrude the doors by 18 mm. Lower the inner edges to create handles. In the end, don't forget to apply the bevel modifier with clamp overlap turned off. Import the facade and place it over the sink. Place the 3D cursor in the center of the shelf and add a cube. It will become the back wall. Resize it so it becomes flat. Its height reaches the ceiling and its width is slightly less than the sink shelf, leaving room for the light fixtures. Cut the back wall to separate the mirror. To the new polygons, apply inset and slightly deepen what you got. Create one more cube, which is high up to the ceiling and which will become a light fixture. Apply the inset to the front side and extrude inside. Create the light fixture itself using the Add Cube tool. It will be a simple profile. Raise it to the right height, cut it in the center, apply a bevel, and extrude the center polygon. Copy the result to the other side. Center the sink and move it closer to the wall. Copy the light fixture from the top and make it the bottom of the wall. Apply the bevel modifier to the fixtures. Import the towel and towel holder. Place them closer to the sink. Use the Add Cube tool to create a cube on the wall that will become the flush button. The button itself is a combination of inset and extrude. To give it finished look, apply the bevel modifier. Import the accessories that will fit in the toilet and check if they have enough space. Import the towel rail. It conflicts with the towel bar. Move the towel bar to the other wall. It fits perfectly between the door and the sink. I like the way it turned out, but I still decided to remove the doorway between the living room and the hallway. I think a more open space would work in this case. Before you can create materials, you must adjust the basic lighting and add the camera. The camera position and rotation can be fine-tuned in the panel on the right. In architectural rendering, vertical lines must remain vertical, so that the camera must stand flat. You can compensate for the vertical tilt with the shift parameter. I set the focal length to 18 mm. This is a pretty wide angle. Set the camera height to be about eye level. In the World tab under the background, choose Environment Texture instead of Color. Open the HDRI map. To adjust it, go to Shader Editor. In the top left corner, change Object to World. Add Texture Coordinate and Mapping Nodes. Connect the nodes. In this case, I've adjusted the rotation and zoomed out to make the environment seem further away. Add a ceiling with the Add Cube tool. Add portals to the windows to get more light into the interior. But if you used Archipack to create the windows, you can just turn on the portals. Windows in Archipack are created with portals right away. Without portals, there will be a lot more noise in the dark corners. Now let's handle the render settings. Render by video card is faster than by processor, so if you have a good video card, select it in the settings. In the system settings, it is preferable to select optics, and in this menu check all possible options. In the render settings, you need to select cycles, and in it select GPU. Enable the adaptive sampling option. Enable denoiser on the render and viewport to quickly see the final result without waiting for good quality. In the section Film, increase exposure to a value where the interior would be bright enough. In the settings, in the add-on section, look for Magic UV, but it is better to install the free Sure UV map. They will be very useful for us. I use Quixel Bridge to find textures. It's free for all users of Unreal Engine, which in turn is also free. Find the texture you want and select Blender in the settings. Export the material. Apply it to the object in the Materials tab. Switch to the Shading workspace. In the Material Editor, you need to make sure that everything is okay. In this case, the normal map is little out of place. Put it back where it belongs. Remove mapping and texture coordinates if you want to texture the model yourself. With Sure UV Map, you can set the size and rotation of the texture. The actual texture size is specified in Bridge. Selecting a texture in Sure UV Map affects its aspect ratio. Select the walls. Create two materials for them, a primary and a secondary. Assign the primary materials with the Assign button. Then select the polygons where you want to apply the other material and apply the secondary material to them. Create a new material and apply it to all of the curtains. Leave the default settings and increase the transmission. If you put them in front of the window, the curtains are slightly translucent but don't look like glass. Find the fabric material, for example again in Quixel Bridge, and apply it to the sofa. Switch normal map to its place. Remove mapping and texture coordinates so you can set the texture size yourself. Add an RGB curve node so you can adjust the color. If the texture isn't its size, try applying all the transformations. Make a copy of the material and make it green. Add more green to the curve. In Hue Saturation Value node, you should try different options and look for the right value. Ash would go well with the dark green. Find it and add it to the scene. Once again, switch normal map and apply the material to the legs of the chair. Find the carpet material. Switch normal map, remove mapping and displacement. Since the carpet is not fluffy, displacement won't be visible. Add the Hue Saturation Value node to adjust how vivid and contrast the texture colors will be. Reduce the saturation. Next, apply a copy of the ash material to the credenza. Remove the mapping node and using Sure UV Map adjust the texture rotation. Make a slight offset on some of the doors to make the texture look more natural. I also need to mention that accurate texture matching can be used in real furniture production. For the base of the table, you could try a painted metal texture. Don't forget to switch normal map. Mapping is not needed on this texture as well as displacement. Apply the Sure UV Map. Create a new glass material, glass BSDF shader. It should be plugged into the surface instead of the standard principled BSDF. The color is responsible for transparency. On the inside, apply the gold material, which can also be found in the Quixel Bridge. It makes an interesting coffee table. Do not afraid to experiment. The dining table is made up of two materials. Apply a new chrome material to the base of the table. To do this, make the roughness value minimal and the metallic value maximal. This will make the surface smooth and shiny. Copy the material and name it aluminium. For now, it's the same as the chrome, but you will be able to change it later. On the countertop, apply the glass material. Find the upholstery material for the chairs. Check to see if they are okay and correct if anything is wrong. You can copy the material from one object to another using Ctrl-L. Copy the material to all the remaining chairs. You can try using brass instead of chrome. Apply the material to the frame of the chairs. Remove displacement, switch normal map. Copy the finished material on all the chairs. For the lights, apply the same brass material. Add a new glowing material. The glowing material has the standard settings, except the white is assigned in the emission slot. All lights must be turned on for good rendering. Apply to the desired part of the fixture and do the same with the rest of the lights. Make the frame of the mirror using an insert tool and apply the brass material to it. Create the mirror material. In this case, you can just copy the chrome and make sure that the extreme values are set. Let's move on to texturing the kitchen. First, apply the existing ash material to the cabinets. Using the Sure UV map, set the texture size and direction. A simple rule of thumb for determining direction. Texture usually runs along the long side of the detail. Apply slight texture shift to create variety in the details. Create a white material to be used on the kitchen countertop and sides. Apply the same material to the upper cabinet along the outline. Use Sure UV map to adjust the scale and rotation of the texture in the same way as for the bottom drawers. Let's move on to the larger cabinets. Give the textures a vertical direction so that it is parallel to the long side of the doors. For the profile handles and threshold, set the direction to horizontal. This will diversify the strict vertical rhythm, create visual interest, also such details will be much easier to produce. It's time to add lighting. Above the countertop there will be LED strip. Add a rectangular light fixture and stretch it so that it goes from the large cabinet to the hood. To make the color warmer, activate the Use Nodes and in the Material Editor add a black body node with a temperature of 4000 degrees. Copy the light fixture to the right side and adjust its size. Under the hood, you can use the 15 watt spotlight, also with a temperature of 4000. The spot shape settings allow you to make it softer. Next, you need to find the missing textures, which were originally on the models, but they were lost for some reason during the import. When a texture is missing, Blender replaces it with a bright pink color. Often models are created for different renders and cycles. Then some materials may not display correctly and you should carefully check all materials and reconnect textures. You should note that the basic functions of the most renderers are standardized, and if the model uses a simple array material without any complex maps, it will work in cycles without any problems. In this case, the kitchen appliances are missing some textures. Go through the list and replace whatever is missing. All that left to do is to replace the glass. You can use the standard material with a high transmission value to do this. Looking at the whole thing, I think that the texture on the cabinet turned out to be too large. Yes, it would take a bit of time, but I decided to redo it. The smaller texture looks more organic, not catchy. It's important to remember that you shouldn't stop at one solution. 3D graphics is an ongoing creative process where you can always see an opportunity to try something new. I open Bridge again and look for new material for the floor. It is a tile with a marble texture. Don't forget to check to make sure everything is connected correctly. As usual, switch normal map, remove mapping and texture coordinates. You can also delete displacement, it won't be noticeable. Continue placing lights in the entrance and living area. Add a rectangular light of 10 by 10 cm and place them under the ceiling. Switch to the top view and start copying them on the grid in increments of about 1.5 meters. Place light fixtures evenly throughout the rooms so that there would be enough light and no dark corners. There is no need to exactly measure the distance between them. This should be done later when the approximate location and number will be determined. When there is enough light, you can continue to work with the textures. Back to texturing the kitchen. For the back wall, marble texture should fit well. It should match the floor, not be very contrasting and be different from the wall. It is warmer but similar in brightness. You can make it more contrasty in the material editor so the spots on the marble are more visible. Let's move on to creating materials for other objects. Apply the aluminum material to the grill. Make sure that all the walls have the same materials. As with the other mirror, apply the mirror material to the center and the brass material to the frame. As for the shelf, it can be made out of glass. Before you apply the existing material, copy it. Change the color to something else. I think a shade of green would work well. Now we can find textures for the potted plant material, which was not preserved during the import. So you have to make it yourself from the existing textures. I don't like the way this green wall turned out and something needs to be done about it. This one needs new material. Also green, but a much darker and less saturated color. The saturation can be restored with light. More light leads to better representation of the color. If you add spotlights, they create an interesting pattern. Try making the glass not completely transparent, but add a tint to it. Or we can try another option, such as using this green wall material on the exterior walls. It turned out visually much more spacious. The walls are not pressing as much. At the same time, small green accents were preserved, which created a strong contrast. Plants on a light grey background look much more expressive. It is better to change the painting aspect ratio so that its edges are aligned to the sides of the credenza. Create a new material. I think this abstract expressionist painting would work well in this interior. For the texture in this case, it is better to use mapping, because you have to stretch it exactly to the size of the object. Rotate it 90 degrees and make a small frame to contrast it against the grey wall. At this stage, it is already starting to be clear what kind of style I like for this project. Continue texturing the hallway. Apply the existing ash wood material to all the doors and make the door handles brass. This will create an interesting contrast of wood and metal. Both materials are warm tones. This will unify them. Use Ctrl L to copy the material from one object to several others. Let's move on to the second bedroom and continue the texturing. Apply the existing material to the curtains or copy it from another room. Create a mint-colored material for the credenza. It will match the green exterior wall, but it won't be as dark. Make cuts on the floor that will define the boundaries of the new material. Select all the polygons inside the room and apply the parquet material there. Use the Sure UV map to set the size and direction of the texture. Don't forget to remove the mapping beforehand so it doesn't interfere. Find the leather material that will be used for the chair. Sometimes in the imported models there are too many materials that it is difficult to understand what belongs to what and why they are needed. So in such cases it is easier to delete them all and set them up again. For this model you need 3 materials: leather, aluminum and plastic. Use aluminum for the entire model as this material covers the most details. Select at least part of the elements for which you need to apply the leather. Press Ctrl L. Apply the material to the selected polygons. Do the same with the plastic. Apply it to the wheels. For the table, use the existing material, ash. The base should be made of aluminum. For the bed, you can use several variations of the same fabric material. In this case, the texture will be in harmony with each other, and the color will vary. Duplicate it several times. In first case, it will be very light, almost white. In the second case, it remains gray. You can also vary the size of the texture, making it coarser or finer. The textures for the pillow material were found at textures.com. In this case, the cushion already has a UV map, so it's better to use a mapping node connected to the UV in the texture coordinates node. This is a better solution than using the Sure UV map, because the object is different from the cubic shape. Adjust the scale parameter to achieve the desired texture size. The blanket texture was also found on textures.com. This is a pattern of green diamonds. They are very appropriate for the style of the project. Assemble the material from the textures. Use mapping and UV in the texture coordinates to change its size. For the bottom of the bed, use the last of 3 duplicate fabrics. Use RGB curves to apply a darker color to the texture. The picture is a simply stretched cube, and inset is applied to the front to create a frame. Apply the texture and stretch it so that it occupies the whole polygon. If necessary, rotate it. Give the frame a thickness by extruding. For the frame, create a simple black material. Select what you got and apply the frame material. Inside the frame, add glass. Duplicate the picture and apply new material. The nightstand has the wrong texture size. If this is not corrected by applying all the transformation, try increasing the size of the texture itself, for example by 100 times. Texturing the main bedroom. I think that the curtains near the balcony door are unnecessary and would be better removed. Copy the material of the curtains in the other room into the bedroom via Ctrl-L. But this time make a copy of the material to change the color. Change the color to brown and apply to the outside curtains. Run the interactive render. The environment behind the window seems quite dark and gives an unpleasant green hue. Select the portal in front of the window and make it a regular light by turning off the portal option. Now a bright natural light passes through the window, and the environment is not visible anyway because of the curtains. For the headboard, assign a leather material. Take an existing material from pillows. Little things like this unify the rooms in the project. For the other pillows, assign the bed material. This will visually unify the pillows with the bed itself and not lead to too many patterns. Check if there is enough room around the bed and adjust the dimensions if necessary. Apply the same material to the bed cover. The second bedroom already has finished blanket material, but if you apply it as it is, the size doesn't match. Duplicate it, apply it to the blanket and resize the texture. Since the fixtures in the bedroom are the same as those in the kitchen, you should apply the same materials. Brass and glow materials were used there. The bedside tables in the main bedroom are no different than those in the second bedroom, so it would be easier to delete them and copy them again. Just like with the second bedroom, make cuts on the floor and apply the parquet material to the polygons you get. Apply the green wall material to the wall with the door to the balcony. This is an interesting composition, but it will be even better with the painting. Duplicate the picture and move it to the bedroom. Hide the glass and in edit mode make the picture bigger. Create a new material with a picture and apply it in the place of the existing one. You can enlarge the frame a bit to match the scale of the image. Bring back the glass and make it the size of the frame. The light fixture above the nightstand glow, but don't light up the room. Select the light fixture and add a 3D cursor. At this point, add a spherical shaped light source and place it down. The room is lit more evenly, especially in the most difficult places. But there is not enough light from above. Copy light fixtures from other rooms. Make lighting soft and even. In a residential interior, it is better not to use harsh, high-contrast lighting. It is usually inappropriate because it does not encourage relaxation. It is best used in a retail space or showroom. I think the wall material can be improved a bit by adding texture. Instead of uniform color, you can find the texture of a fabric or paint. The material should be duplicated so that one is light gray, the other is green. The texture on the walls will not be striking to the eye, and probably most of the viewers will not even pay attention to it, but it is important for the perception of the image as a whole. In order for the eye to be pleased with the image, there must be something there, even if it's just a barely noticeable texture. A perfectly smooth wall will look a little unnatural. Let's move on to texturing the bathroom. Copy the ash material from the doors onto the cabinet and the drawer. Set the direction of the textures with a sure UV map. The top cabinet doors should have a vertical texture direction, and the bottom doors and drawers should have a horizontal direction. Copy the material from the back of the kitchen to the sink. Apply aluminum material to the facade. Make the mirror the same as the one near the entrance, with the mirror material in the center and the brass frame. Copy the light from the hallway and place 3 of them in the bathroom. Use chrome material for the shower. The wall material will be small-sized green glossy tiles with light colored joints. Brass will work well for the handles and hinges. On the interactive rendering, you can see that everything looks quite dark. That's exactly the effect I'm trying to achieve. Next, with the help of pendant lights and backlighting, you can add high contrast to light. Apply regular glass material to the light fixture itself. To the bottom, where the bulb is located, apply a glowing material. Everything else is aluminum. Just like in the bedroom, place the 3D cursor where the light fixture is and add a light there. The size of the light should be slightly larger than the light's body, so that the body doesn't interfere with the light. Change the type of light fixture to spot so that it points downward, adding contrast to the lighting. In the material editor, add a black body node with a temperature of 4000 to get a nice warm light. Add lighting behind the mirror. A contrast lighting helps to cheer up in the morning. Copy the light to the other side. It may be too dark under the sink. Add a rectangular light with a temperature of 4 or 5000. Increase the power of the shower light, so that the space can be seen better through the glass and the reflections on it. Apply neutral material to the little things and accessories. We'll get into more accessories later on. To balance out the lighting, add a linear light fixture on the other wall, under the ceiling. Remove all materials from the towels and ropes and apply the white fabric materials already used on the bed. For the toilet, I choose a tile similar to the one in the bathroom, but smaller. In this case, the color is white, and you have to match the color. Start by removing the mapping and displacement maps you don't need in this case. Switch the normal map to its place. Using curves and the hue saturation value node, pick a color that will be similar to the texture in the bathroom. Copy the bathroom countertop material here. For the bottom of the shelf, apply the ash material and set the texture direction horizontally. For the towel rail, copy the material that was used for the towels and chrome. Apply the chrome to the towel rack as well. Start texturing the back wall and its sides by applying the ash material. Then select the polygon where the mirror will be and apply the appropriate material. Make the light fixtures on the sides of the mirror and facade aluminum. Copy the ash wood material onto the cabinet in the niche. Use the Sure UV map to set the vertical direction of the texture with a slight offset. The texture can be rotated horizontally where the handle cutouts are located. The flush button can be made out of aluminum. For the toilet bowl, you need to create a simple ceramic material that is white and fairly smooth. The same material combined with aluminum can be used for accessories. The lighting of the toilet is much like the bathroom. Copy the ceiling lights and put 2 pieces. To add illumination near the mirror, put a 3D cursor on the light fixture. Add a spotlight pointing downwards so that you get a nice diffused light. Add a black body node with a temperature of 4000 degrees. Duplicate the resulted light and rotate it upwards. This way the light goes out in both directions. Copy the two lights on the other side. Add a rectangular light under the sink so that you don't have any black corners. Try to switch ceiling light to spot to get more directional lighting to emphasize the sink while leaving the walls dark. Let's move on to creating the details, starting with the baseboard. Select all the walls and remove the polygons from the bottom. The baseboard will be created in places of the edges, and they are only needed along the contour of the wall. Select the bottom edges, copy them, separate, and convert them to curves. In the curves parameters, select 2D. Extrude 80 mm and a depth 10 mm under the bevel section. They will go slightly down to the floor, but they won't interfere with anything. Repeat this for all other walls. Where baseboards are not needed or overlapping, switch to the curve edit mode and remove unnecessary parts. Apply white material to the baseboard. I think the door trim can be made white as well. Now it's time to add detail to the ceiling. To make space for the curtains, make cuts on the ceiling about 15 cm from the wall. Make cuts around the sides of the walls. Raise the curtains so that the upper part of them slightly overlaps the ceiling. Stretch them vertically a bit, apply the material to the ceiling niches in the color of the walls. I think we can try changing out the sofa. I found a model that is more appropriate for this interior. The new sofa is on high legs, it seems less massive. Apply the same material to it that was on the former one. Add outlets. Import the model and apply white material. Just like for real one, thanks to the modularity, you can make many different combinations out of this outlet. Stretch the frame, move to outlets and switch into it. And that's how you get variation number 1. Put the outlet above the kitchen countertop. For visualization, you can apply a trick and make the body of the outlet thicker, so that the inner side of the outlet does not intersect with the wall. Now this outlet can be copied and changed as needed. Here it can be mirrored horizontally and make the switch closer to the door. You don't need an outlet near the door, you can just leave the switch. It can be copied to all the rooms that will need a switch. Now you can make a module with outlets but without the switch. Make a copy of it, stretch the frame and make, for example, 6 outlets. They are definitely useful there. Let's move on to the arrangement of the ceiling lights. The approximate arrangement of the lighting is already there. It remains to arrange the fixtures themselves, this time accurately and precisely. Import the light fixture. Make the body dark for better contrast. I recommend not making a reflector inside for a more predictable render, but replace it with a glowy material. Spread them across the grid at equal intervals. This is a quite long process, you have to calculate everything carefully. When the lights are in place, make cuts in the ceiling, which would pass exactly in the center of the fixture, that would make openings. At this point, the light fixture intersects with the ceiling and the light bulb itself gets trapped inside. When the cuts are ready, apply a bevel to the edges that are diameter of the light fixture so that it fits inside. Remove the intersections and then the inside of the light fixtures will be visible. The next step of the project is to arrange the accessories. I had already taken care of this and found a lot of accessories in advance, checked the quality of the models and converted their materials for cycles. The models were found in a variety of places, on TurboSquid, Reader Sky, Evermotion and Model Plus Model. They usually come in complete thematic kits. Over time, you will collect more and more of them and be able to reuse them in different projects. A rule of thumb is that every surface where there can be object must be filled with thematic objects. Every surface in the interior should be touched, and something should be put there to make the composition look complete. And this applies not only to tables but also to walls and ceilings. There could be pictures, outlets, hooks on the walls. The baseboard also adds details to the wall. If it is a bathroom, there should be items that a person uses in the bathroom. In the kitchen, it can be cutting boards, bottles, plates, mugs, and so on. Nothing should be empty. On each flat surface should be put some kind of composition. Each composition should consist of at least 3 objects. One should be horizontal, one vertical, and one sculpture that has a less pronounced difference in aspect ratio. They should be placed so that layering is achieved. This means that one object can stand in front of other, partially covering it. And the other object can, for example, be a background for the first one. Or a horizontal positioned object could be the base for a sculpture, reducing the height difference between the sculpture and the vertical object. There can be more than 3 objects, but it is important to make sure that a large number of accessories does not turn into visual garbage, distracting from the interior. Thanks to the accessories, you get a natural environment. It becomes clear that people live here and use the interior. Through the accessories, you can see who lives here or who possibly could live here, what they like and what they're interested in. Objects should be combined primarily by color, because it is the color that most influences how well objects are visually grouped. The second priority in grouping is the size and shape of the items, to make sure that the accessories are not isolated from the composition and harmonized. They should have something in common with each other. It is important to find a balance between similarities and differences, so that the objects were in harmony but were not boring. In this project, warm brown color suit the accessories, but they have differences in materials. The variety turned out to be quite extensive. There are ceramics, wicker, bronze and glass. You can put a lot of stuff on the nightstand, but you don't have to put everything on it. It can hold a few vases, flowers, a book. 3 items overlap each other. One more pot can be placed on the floor. In this way, work was done on all surfaces, including the floor. When the accessories have appeared, the lights need to be raised so they do not get in the way. On the credenza in the second bedroom, you can put an Xbox. It will fit well with its shape. And the controller from it put on the nightstand. It will act like a sculpture element and will complete the thematic composition of the outlet, Xbox and the controller to it, even if it is not gathered in one place. Put a lamp on the table and the TV on the credenza. It takes up enough space to interact with the wall. And then the wall doesn't look so empty anymore. You can put an iMac on the desktop. It takes up enough space in front of the window and visually harmonize with the TV. They are big black squares. In the kitchen, the induction cooktop is better emphasized by a pot. It is not as visible as a gas range. I import a pre-made set of kitchen accessories. You don't need all of them. Only some part of it will do for such a small kitchen. Divide it into 2 sets and arrange it on the countertop on both sides of the cooktop. Cushion designs can be made more varied. Create several materials, each for a different cushion. All textures are available at textures.com. You can change the color of the textures in Photoshop or the material editor. Adjust their colors so that they fit the style of the project. To adjust their size in this case, it is better to use mapping node. On some of the pillows, the pattern is better to be made finer. There are already 4 pillows on the sofa, so adding more accessories does not make any sense. It will overload the composition. I think we need to make some small changes. On the credenza, there are too many accessories, and some of them can be moved to the shelf near the entrance. They would be more useful there. Duplicate the painting and move it to the second bedroom. It will be another painting by the same artist, similar in style. It will look good on this wall and fill the void. I think we can look for a new material for the chairs. After a lot of color correction, it has some unpleasant purple spots. Once again, I got this texture from textures.com. Apply the color correction again. I think it looks better than the previous one. Spread out the remaining lights. The sculpture of the fish can be illuminated to emphasize its shape. Change the light fixtures to a warmer light. Duplicate it in the hallway. Add a new lamp. It will illuminate the painting and the fish sculpture in the hallway. To cut a circular hole in the ceiling, create a cylinder across the ceiling. Copy it in place of the lights, apply the Boolean modifier, and hide the cylinder itself. Thus, the lights fit in their places. This completes the arrangement of accessories and small items. Before you start rendering, I recommend arranging the rooms into layers. This helps to make the project easier to work with. Architectural renderings can take up a lot of computer resources, and projects like this may refuse to render at all due to lack of video memory. If you split up the project into parts and hide the rooms that are not visible from a particular camera, you can save a lot of memory. To start, divide the rooms into collections. Each room should be in its collection. Create a new layer by the room name. In it, hide all the collections except for the one with the room you want. A new collection is created for each room and a layer where all the unnecessary stuff is hidden. Try to switch between the layers. Now you can adjust the settings for the final render. Once again, make sure you selected cycles. If there is such a possibility, use the video card, in other words GPU. Next comes the most important quality setting, sampling. For a test render, it's set to 1024. The value for the GPU is usually much higher than for the CPU. Turn on Simplify if the render doesn't start. Under Color Management, make sure that Filmic is set. My preference is High Contrast Look. Set a relatively high resolution and enable Single Layer option to render only one layer. Do a test render. I am happy with the result, but I want to tweak the brush material. It's too light and saturated. You can also move the lights away from the wall. The rendering looks good, but I want higher quality. Increase sampling to 2000 and be sure to enable environment in the Passes tab to separate the interior render from the background. This will be useful during compositing in the next step. Make a render. Switch to the compositing workspace. Here you can further work on the images to make them even better. Select the layer with which you are currently working. Add a viewer node and connect it to the image. Add a mix node, which will mix the interior and background channels. Connect an alpha channel to the factor to set which part of the image will be the background and which part will be the interior. To decrease the brightness of the background, add an exposure node and place it before the mix. After exposure, add an RGB curves node. Set the white level to 4 and bend it up to allow the image to retain as much dynamic range as possible. Add glare to make highlights appear in bright spots. Add another mix node, where the mask will be connected to edit the round table. Switch back to the render window and select the mask mode. Add a circular mask and stretch it along the contour of the table. Add the mask node and select the created mask. It should be followed by the invert node. Add RGB curves node and run the image through it and add to mix. Add an exposure node with a -4 value and a blur node to smooth out the mask edges. Merge all of them and save them from the same window where you rendered the image. Make sure that the composite layer is selected. Move the camera for a new shot. Position it so that you can see the kitchen. To control the composition, move the chairs into the new collection and hide them from the layer to avoid them being visible in the render. Make a render and move into the compositing environment. Add the exposure, viewer and mix nodes. You may want to use the original noisy image before the denoiser was applied to bring back the fine textures of the chair that were lost after the denoiser was used. Add a mask that completely covers the chairs. It doesn't have to be completely fitted to the outline. In this case, it will not affect anything if it is a little blurry around the edges. Take the previously created nodes with mask, inversion and blur. Select the new mask and plug it into the mix. The chairs have their texture back and look comfy, not like plastic. Add a third camera, which will point straight ahead. The camera angle can be made a little wider. Make a render and go to the creation of the mask. This time it will be accurately drawn. On the right side of the mask tab, click the plus sign and use the pen to carefully trace the outline around the chairs and carpet. Just like on the last angle, apply a noisy image to the mask to return the fine details of the texture. Add the noisy image and the image after denoiser to the mix node and the mask to the factor. Add another mask to lighten the wall. Outline part of the wall with a pen and repeat the previous step, adding another mix node. Copy the mask node and everything associated with it. Select the new mask. Plug the same image into the mix, but in the top input, the image will go through the exposure node. Add another mask to give the table a golden hue. Add the hue saturation value node. Take the same image and connect it to inputs. One of them goes through the hue saturation value node and comes back into the mix. In the mix factor, plug in a copy of the same set of mask, inversion and blur. Select the created mask. Add glare to get a glow effect in bright spots. Copy the camera into the second bedroom and make the frame so that the foreground, middle ground and background are clearly visible. Make a render. Use the previously created node to adjust the brightness of the background and to get rid of blown highlights. Connect the background and interior in the mix node. In addition, repeated use of the settings will allow you to achieve the same look in all images. Add another mask and use the pen tool to trace the dark corners of the wall. Add mix and the exposure node in front of it. And in this way, lighten the dark corners. Create another mask, this time for the table to make it less overexposed. The mask should outline the table precisely. Add a mix node, connect the image to it, but the top input should go through the exposure node. Use the same setup with the mask. Select the table mask and remove the blur. It remains only to add glare to emphasize the bright areas. The shot is ready, let's move on to the next one. Select the table and move it to the new collection. Hide the collection because the new camera will be on this side of the room and the table should not interfere. In the camera settings, increase the clip start distance to hide everything that is between the camera and the section plane. In this case, it will be the wall and window. Make a render. Connect glare and the exposure node. The Xbox looks like a black spot, it should be made lighter. Add a mask, draw it with the pen. Copy the setup of the mask, invert and blur nodes. Select the mask, add a mix node, put the image in it through the exposure node. Copy the camera to the main bedroom. Hide the unnecessary collection that have recently been created from this layer. Render. Because of the complex lighting, the noise on the render is higher than usual, therefore the denoiser is working harder and the textures are blurred. To return some textures to their natural appearance, it is necessary to partially return the original noisy image. Draw a mask. Add a mix node. Put the image with denoiser on the bottom input and the noisy image on the top input. Now there is too much noise. The relationship between one input and the other is not only regulated as white or black, meaning yes or no, but it can be grayed out, so you can leave as much noise as you want. Plug in the color correction node and raise the lift value until you get the optimum result. The edge of the bed looks almost black and needs to be lightened. Add another mix node and create a mask. Connect the setup with the mask in the mix through the exposure node with a value of +1. The blur should be strong enough so that you don't see a clear outline. Add the glare node to emphasize the lights, and this means that another image is ready. Copy the camera to the bathroom. Change the resolution, this way you can change the aspect ratio. Change the shift in the camera settings so that you can see more of the floor. Render the image. Even without any post-processing, the image looks good. Add a glare node. The thing should be the center of attention, and to do this, it needs to be lightened. Create a mask and use the pen tool and carefully highlight the top edge, avoiding the placed accessories. Use a combination of mask, inversion and blur. Add a mix node and pass the top image through the exposure node. Select the mask and do a slight blur, and thus get a light bright countertop. Copy the two cameras in the toilet room and arrange them so that they make informative use. Make renders. Everything looks good. And in this case, you cannot apply any post-processing. The project is completed. The most important thing at work is to take your time. It may look like I did it quickly on the video, but the project took a couple of weeks. While working, I often took a break and thought about what was the best decision to make. It's better to spend a little more time, but do everything with quality, precision and details. Goodbye, and I can't wait to see what you will create.